Something about the world ain't right. The darkness lives in plain sight. In the ether, adjust your eyes. There are those that have no clue. You give them hints, they just stare at you. Most could live in Plato's cave, watching. Welcome to Truth Stream, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are here with Lynnne Scott Haggerman, who was referred to us by none other than Mark Abrams from News Treason. And it's an honor to have you here. We're going to have her share her story, and we're learning about her primarily as the audience learns about her. So welcome to the show, Lynn. It's an honor to have you.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. It's an honor to be here. I was sharing before the show, while I was still healing, the two of you and this podcast were so integral to my healing journey, sharing the truth and making me aware of things that helped me. And so just God bless you both. I am one of your biggest fans.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic.
It means a lot. It really does. We never know who's watching or, who it's going to reach. So, where now, just so the folks know, I mean, we could probably start with a little background. I'm just going to let folks know a little bit more about you from your ex. And Lynn is on X, just so people know. And those links will be below as well. And from your X account, Lynnne Scott Haggerman, trafficked as a child, experimented on in tunnels by U.S. University and 3-letter government agencies, MK Ultra, SRA, Survivor. And those who are not aware of that, MK Ultra is mind control and SRA is satanic ritual abuse. And these are the stories that if anyone out there is going through a hard time, you and Laura Worley and Kathy O'Brien, if you ladies can come through with smiles, there's hope for every person on the planet, I would think. So,
amen.
Yeah. So I read that title, and, David Martin's been on our show and talked about the bioweapons labs that are funded, through the U.S. universities and the payoffs to members of Congress. When you say experimented on in tunnels by U.S. university and 3-letter government agencies, could you talk about the U.S. university aspect part of that descriptor?
Absolutely. I was regularly taken to a U.S. university medical center where they, above ground is the U.S. University Medical Center, and underground is a tunnel system. And as your viewers are well aware, we have an extensive tunnel system throughout the United States. It's very sophisticated. It actually goes worldwide, how it connects. Whenever I would go there, several times I would go there, and this was from, by the time I was a little girl till I was 5 years old. And there were many children. They would be separated above ground by those that had a home to go to and those that did not. And then there would be a pedophile slave auction above ground. And then we would be taken below ground. And those that did not have a home to go to, if you can imagine rows and rows and rows and rows of surgical tables, silver surgical tables, and tubes running out of the children. And there would be adrenochrome harvesting and organ harvesting. And then the children would, no anesthesia, because these people are not like us. And whenever the children would die, then there would be skin harvesting and things like this. I had a home to go to. And so with me, there was the experimentation. And it was electrocution. It was Operation Montauk comes to mind. I remember wearing the hat with all of the medical wires coming out with medical devices where they would record my reactions. There would be, it would be on a dental chair, and there would be medical staff, doctors, nurses from above ground, med techs. There would be government agency employees there. watching flat screen TV with people watching from that, sexual trauma, mental and emotional trauma. I was trafficked from birth to 5 years old, so I speak for the little girl in me that survived and all the little ones that I saw did not survive. So I explain things more from that viewpoint because I want everyone I talk to understand what it's like for the little ones. And you'll rarely hear me use the word child sex trafficking because from a little one standpoint, they have no concept what sex is. It's physical and mental torture. I would like to change the vocabulary because sex is an adult word that connotates certain behaviors. And from a child standpoint, that was kidnapping. It is a holocaust of children down there. Well, everything came over from Operation Paperclip. But that's a summary of what it was like in the tunnels. And they're very sophisticated. After the event in Israel on October 6th, the year before last, they showed a lot of pictures, for example, under Jerusalem of hospital systems. So these are very sophisticated. It's not mine shaft tunnels. It's like communities down there.
Wow. So you said there was a variety of different types of people that were present for these experiments, if you will. How is it that you think that they're able to keep all of these people quiet or keep them from talking? Like what either the blackmail or the incentive? And are they humans or are they something else? I mean, we go pretty deep on the show. So whatever you're willing to talk about, because it's so hard for us to wrap our heads around that this happens. Even though Scott and I hear this stuff, we've never been around it per se.
No, it's completely understandable. That's one reason why I'm speaking. I was activated a year ago. Matter of fact, this is my anniversary of speaking for the first time. Just have to tell you, I gave my full testimony for the first time a year ago on Michael Jaco's show.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah, so I'm really excited. Yeah, you guys are my anniversary show, so I'm real happy about that. Yeah. So they were human. Now, did they have souls? I doubt it. They were very willing to be there. And what I want to reference, because I know it's hard for people to understand, in December of last year, the United States National Security Archives released 1,200 never before seen documents regarding MK Ultra and the CIA operation behind that. And when those were released, I sent them to Kathy O'Brien because she's an expert at this and she's been through 90,000 documents. And I said, Kathy, are these really new or are they just regurgitating prior documents? And she looked and she said, these are brand new. And in those documents, if you decide to read them, and I suggest everyone do their own research, but in those documents, they reference the experimentation at the university medical centers. Praise God, even though, I know it's 1,000% true. It's just wonderful vindication when you read that stuff. But what they'll talk about, to answer your question, when they decided to experiment on human subjects, and that humans, people, U.S. citizens was who they chose first. They went to the university medical centers in the United States. Now, this is worldwide, but I'm focusing now on these documents. And they built annexes and wings on these places and got the tunnels going. Derek Johnson talks about how DARPA requested funds to go underneath the tunnels of the colleges and universities. So, we know we've got him. So anyway, with the CIA documents, when you read those, they will talk about how their first job was to recruit medical professionals. And their goal was to recruit the best of the best. And there's some documentation in there about how they had a little bit of trouble because some of the best of the best were a little hesitant to, they thought it might be a little unethical and a little immoral to do what the CIA wanted to do, but they found that by far and large, the majority of people were on board. And these were the best of our best medical people. But we have to remember too, that they were imported, a lot of them from when we lost World War II, and they came over from Operation Paperclip, the Nazis, and infiltrated everywhere. Nonetheless, not all of them were Nazis, but they were trained by Nazis. And this has been going on ever since. So in the documentation, they the rationale for these, again, the best of our medical, said anything to further science. They were going to go into the mind where no man had been before, like a Star Trek kind of concept, and they were willing to do anything and whatever it took on U.S. citizens in advancement of science and big pharma, which I know for your audience that would be no surprise either. And so the experimentation began. Adults, children, um, when in these documents, I can't remember if it was the 70s or 80s, Kathy be better at some of the dates, where the CIA, there were congressional hearings, and they said, yes, we did this. Oops, never mind, didn't mean it, so sorry. And that was it. So they didn't stop. I'm proof that they never stopped. But they did get a little bit more hesitant about using US citizens because of the PR associated. And that's whenever they went international. Our United States government is the largest trafficker of children in the world. During the Biden administration, they say 300,000 children are lost. I'm putting that in air quotes, they're not lost, in the United States. But I was talking to J.J. Carroll, former Border Patrol, high ranking. Yeah, you guys know him. And he said it's 900,000. So they're still doing it, but they're focusing more on, I mean, they will definitely use U.S. citizens. I mean, my gosh, the FBI, who's part of the problem, says that we lose 500,000 children a year in the United States. Well, that's as if the entire city of Kansas City disappeared, got full of children and disappeared year after year after year after year. More statistics say it's more like 800,000. We might be looking at Charlotte, Atlanta, worldwide, Hong Kong. So many children are air quote missing. It's as if the entire city of Hong Kong were filled with children and they disappeared this year, and it filled up again. They disappeared. It's a horrific problem, but quite a bit of it. I mean, it's above ground trafficking, adrenochrome harvesting, organ harvesting, and the tunnels below ground.
It's yeah, I mean it's truly shocking. Even though this isn't new to us, I mean it hits hard every single time we hear it.
Sure.
It boggles the mind that there would be any motivation to do anything like this.
So
Yes.
I want to, I just reposted Ricardo Bossi talking about the plan and the military working for 60 years behind the scene. But
Yes.
then you hear that children are still being trafficked even after Trump comes into office, and that, whatever, they have to allow the borders open. And we don't know how much of that is really real when we're watching some of this footage. We were on a show with Dave from News Treason, and he pulled up that one of the engine cars actually said movie. What is your take on all of this when you give us these figures and there's a plan, but there's still children going missing? It's hard to really put those two pieces together. Could you give us some clarity on that?
I'll give you my opinions on these things because I've been
Fair
trailing it too. I understand. I'll tell you what I've seen because this is my lane, and so I'm more familiar with this and maybe others. But what I'm seeing is Commander-in-Chief and President Donald Trump has cared for the children more than anyone else that's ever been in that office. And at a federal level, since he's taken office, he's going like gangbusters. And where it comes to the things that I speak of, one of the first things that I saw him do was fire federal judges. Now, our judicial system is all of our systems have to be taken down and rebuilt by we the people standards. They're so corrupt. There's a lot of good people everywhere, so I don't want to be misunderstood, but there's so much corruption that it has to come down. We're in an Ecclesiastes 3:3 time, a time to tear down and then a time to build. So when I saw him have the power, I didn't know that legally he had, because everything's being done by the law. I didn't know that he had the power to take judges out. So he fired federal judges and federal attorneys. Now, in my mind, now that's the top level, and then we're going to get the middle guy, and then we're going to go local. And whenever I heard, because the corruption is top to bottom, and when I heard that Kash Patel, one of the first things he did when he got in office was he distributed FBI agents throughout the United States at a local level. Now, my day job, I'm an international award-winning human resource consultant, praise God. And part of that is I very much understand personnel issues. So when he did that, it's very easy to figure out who are your great employees and who are the bad guys. And trust the man, trust the plan. Before he got in office, they assessed these agents to figure out who was good and who was bad. So I believe that Kash dispersed the FBI agents that were good in order to take down the middle level, because at the low level, the local, because we have to take out the judicial system, because most of them, as we know, are funded by international dollars, George Soros, et cetera, and the DAs. Our judicial system is very pro-pedophile. And if you ever enter it, which I don't recommend anyone do it, you'll be destroyed if you're for the children, and you'll win if you're the pedophile. It's rarely any other way. So that's one system. Our law enforcement is also, again, a lot of good guys, a lot of corruption. So that needs to be removed. Also, our Department of Re-Education, we see Trump destroying it at a federal level. It's a pedophile agenda through and through to harm the children, no doubt. And so that's going to go to the states, which hopefully will go local to push that down to the parents. It's every system. The CPS, I call it the Child Pedophile Services. They're known prolifically for being pro-pedophile. So religious organizations, it's since we've all of us were asleep. I always knew what happened to me, but I was asleep in every other area. And now we're awake, and we see that every single system is corrupt. So I believe that's a big answer to the problem. Until everything is taken down, which I'm watching it happen, then we can rebuild per we the people standards.
Okay. Because I mean, I'll share a story. This was a very surprise to my family and I. I'm not going to say any names, but there was someone that my brothers knew from high school. He was a father. He worked in the school system. I haven't even told him this story yet. He had 2 children, and he was recently, there was an FBI raid at his house, I believe. And it was I think it was for dealing in child porn. And even though, no, I didn't know this guy, but my brothers did. Even though I don't know the whole case yet, but I just don't know how someone could just be doing the sharing of the child porn, even if it's financial, without somehow being drawn to that. And I think what's just scary is, I think when most of us were little, that was such a taboo thing to even hear that anyone in any way, shape, or form was doing that. And now it's so massive. Has the problem always been, and we're finally noticing it, or has it gotten worse over the last 3 or 4 decades? What is your take on that? Like, how is it that there's a father of children working in the school system in the Pierce County area that's part of child porn? Like, it still blows my mind that's even a thing.
I agree. It is very mind-blowing. And you're right on both counts. It's always been around. For example, in my family, there was generational pedophilia. Kathy O'Brien will talk about that subject quite a bit. And so over time, then it just keeps perpetuating. And it's getting worse and worse and worse. One example of why it's gotten worse is our Department of Education has been teaching sex education younger and younger and younger and younger. And I want to give you some more statistics. Years ago, police reports, just police records alone, and this was, I don't know, 10 years ago or more, of reported cases, and you guys know most of this is not reported, in the United States alone, and this is worldwide, but these numbers, the US alone, 25% of little girls, I'll use the word raped, but I normally don't use that word because, again, it's physical and mental torture. So I'll switch to that. 25% of little girls were being physically and mentally tortured, and 10% of little boys. Now that this is my area of expertise, and I've been seeing a nationally well-known trauma therapist now for several years recovering through this. And we both agree, and anyone in this field, that in the United States, when you include the unreported, it's 50% of little girls that you see now have or are being physically and mentally tortured, and 25% of little boys. So picture it when you're at Walmart, half the little girls that you see are currently being physically and mentally tortured, and a fourth of little boys. When you're at church, when you're at a football stadium, a little elementary school play, this is the reality of it. And it's been going on for so long, and it keeps, some people come out of this, everybody comes out scathed, but some people come out pedophiles. And they continue to be pedophiles. And I saw that when I was little. Some of the children would turn into pedophiles and keep doing that, and some would not. So it's the numbers. There are so many, and so you have to think, if there are that many who are being physically and mentally tortured, how many pedophiles are in the United States? Again, it's worldwide, but I'm talking U.S. How many pedophiles does it take to destroy that many children's lives? To me, they're serial killers, because the lives that people live from the moment that happens, they've killed whatever life that little child was going to have, and they'll never be the same. And it'll take them a lifetime to try to dig out of that.
It's worse than murder. I mean, it really is, because people undergoing that kind of trauma have to live a certain kind of hell. That's a fate worse than death for sure. It just absolutely makes my blood boil. And I remember when it was circulating that the pedophile symbol was on the badges of the LAPD, and I thought, who do you call? Like,
Right.
What kind of support is there? Short of vigilantism or something. I mean, what can you do? And it's such a monolith, and it goes all the way up. And the deeper you get into it, you get into the Vatican and the Pentagon and so on and so forth. That doesn't create a hopeful picture. I'm wondering, with your personal story, like, when did you, kind of like, we've spoken with Laura, we've spoken with Kathy, and their experiences. When did this click for you? Were you always aware that this was happening to you consciously, or was it something that just sort of came up? And what did that look like?
When I was 5 years old, my parents got divorced, and my mother moved, and we were away from all of it. And it was about as simple as that, how it stopped. And at that time, God did what I call a brain wipe, and he erased 95% of my memory. And so I had 5% left, but the rest was gone. And that enabled me to quasi-function as a quasi-normal person in society. I always knew something was seriously wrong with me, but I could not figure it out. And I knew that things that I did and felt and the fears I had just made no sense, but I couldn't figure out why. And then in 2011, I had my first repressed memory, and I was at my makeup mirror, and all of a sudden it hit. People could call it a flashback, might be a word that people would understand. And I was in my crib, and when you have a repressed memory or I'll call it a flashback, people probably understand that better. Everything comes back. So I knew what I was wearing. I could see the bedding on the crib. I could see the guy. I knew the color of his shirt, the buttons, the smells, and the physical. It hits you again physically, as if you were reliving it. The pain, the shock, the mental torture. It just all comes on you at once. And I'm here to tell you, I dropped to my knees on the floor in a puddle because it was so horrific. And that day later, I needed to go somewhere, and I was driving my car, and I was talking to the Lord about it. And I said, God, I could have lived a lifetime without ever remembering that. I mean, little did I know that was the first of a bazillion horrific. I mean, that doesn't touch the hem of the garment to most of it. And so I was talking about it, and I looked up, which you should always do, in my opinion, when you're in trouble. And there was a giant billboard, and all it said was, "It's never too late." God is so good. Yeah, God is just absolutely good. And so then I knew, okay, I was in a place in my life where I needed to remember some things, and I have ever since.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, that took a lot of courage. A lot of
You.
people would run from that rather than trying to figure it out. But
And you said that was 2011.
2011, and praise God, I was going through a divorce. I mean, that's another praise God, but wasn't my original praise God thought.
It's good to have a little levity.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is a topic. It's hard to talk about. I know. God bless your listeners for listening. It's in you guys. It's hard to hear. But anyway, I was seeing a therapist at the time to work through that, and what I didn't know was that she was a nationally known trauma therapist, and so she has been such a godsend helping me through this.
Wow. And if you could, sorry if I missed it. What was it that triggered that memory coming back? Was there anything specific, or did it just
mirror.
happen?
It just
Looking at
happened.
the mirror is a powerful thing. It really is. Yeah.
A lot happens in my makeup mirror, I have to say. I have a lot of
Scott
conversations.
has the same problem, honey.
I don't call it my makeup mirror, but yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of different meditations and things you can do where you look yourself in the eye, and it can lead to a lot of,
Oh, yeah.
just massive
No,
insights. But
this was literally putting the makeup on, and there was nothing. I mean, I was just not thinking anything special, doing anything special, doing something I did every day, and it hit like a bomb. And that's what it's like for some people. Is out of the blue one day, they'll have this horrific flashback, and then it begins. And the issue is, what are they going to do when they have it? And yes, some people might run and hide. I mean, there's all kinds of react. It's just so shocking, and again, thank God I was with who I didn't know was a trauma therapist, because when I told her about it, we were in business then, and I've seen her every week since then, once or twice a week, because I have so many flashbacks. It's constant. There's never rarely a day that I don't have a flashback, because that's a lot of time from birth to 5 years old to remember a lot of extensive trauma. So I work very, very, very hard on my recovery.
Wow.
Well, two questions on that. One, what was the rest of your week like after that first one hit? And I think that's important. And then also, when you do recollect these things, are they all consuming? Is it like you've read your story in a book, or is it more? Is it more transformative than that? I mean, I hope I hope I'm asking the question correctly.
Sure, and I'll answer, and if you've got a part B, or if you met something differently, let me know. So the rest of that week was rough. Once I got the billboard, the day was very rough until I got the billboard. And I have when I was little, I saw God and Jesus and angels and demons all the time. It was just as real to me as you guys sitting there. And I went to heaven a lot, and that's still true in my life now. So I'm very, very close to the Lord. And it was very comforting, as much as I didn't want to see it. It was very comforting getting the billboard, especially in such a dramatic way. I mean, he's so awesome, God. And so the spiritual part of me was very comforted, and I knew I was loved and I'd be okay. The physical part of me was like, what the is going on? What is happening right now? And it was very rough until I got to see my therapist. And then so I forgot the second part of your question. Oh, so okay. So then how it works now, if this was your question, I'll be going about my day, and I'll get triggered, and it can be a doorknob, it can be absolutely anything. So I'll give you one example. So I'm a marathoner now and a weightlifter. So yeah, so I run a lot. And one day I was out running, and I saw, those old washing machines. I don't even, they non-electric, where like you would stick a sheet through and they'd wring it out.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was running along doing my thing, and I saw one of those, and I had a horrific flashback, and I lost the ability to use my right leg. It just stopped working. And when these things happen, I'm just kind of stuck. And so luckily I was only about, I don't know, maybe 3 miles from home. So I got myself home, and I had no idea what that was about. and got to so I had to drag my leg around my house then until I could get to my therapist, because it wouldn't work. And I started having like snippets of memories of what it was. But I went to see her, and there was a process. The number one therapy technique available worldwide to us now is called EMDR. And there's a website called emdria.org where you can look up a therapist in your area. But anyway, or do it by Zoom.
Is that the tapping?
Pardon me?
That includes
Yes.
the tap.
Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So that's the process that she uses. So anyway, whenever that technique is going on, I can process out that body memory, that flashback, usually in one session. If they're really bad, it might take 2 or 3. And so what I remembered then was 2 things. There was a lot of torture that went on in the basement at the trafficking house. And I won't get too graphic, but just to explain the story. The grandfather that lived there would have a row on the wall, a row of casts of different sizes that he put on a child's leg to keep them from running. And so that was the dragging, was that I was remembering that memory. And then the washing machine thing, there was a room where the children's fingers would be put, because some of the children had homes to go to, like me, but some didn't. And the things that these evil Luciferian satanic pedophiles can dream of when they have no accountability are bad. But they would put children's fingers in that washing machine. And one of the most horrific things to go to was sitting there waiting your turn, hearing that, and hearing the children scream. And I would much rather have it done to me than one of the others. But that so that was what all of that was about. But once I was able to process it out, and of course there's a lot of emotions and things that go with that too, then I'm fine, which is why I can speak to it today like a rational human being. Is one of the reasons, is because I'm able to process out the trauma. And God is so good. The next day, I have 2 to 4 hours of Bible study and prayer time every day. I stay very close to the Lord and Jesus and Holy Spirit. And they're always so good to confirm something. Like, when this first started happening, I would think, no one does this. No one does this to children. This is impossible. This is insane. This can't be happening. I mean, I would just be like, no. And God's so good. He would confirm it. So I remember one time I had a cat named Blackie because it was black. You have to remember I was very little. And they hung Blackie from a clothesline and had me watch them kill her. And then they hung me, not to kill me, but it's part of the control so they can get you to do whatever they want. And when so I have that memory, and I'm like, no, they cannot be doing this. And I was in my Bible study and prayer time, and I was flipping the TV, or maybe it was when I got back from the therapist, because I don't watch TV anyway. I don't watch cartoons, and I flipped it, and there was a cat hanging on a clothesline. Now, how many times have you seen a cartoon with a cat? Like, never. And that's how God gently tells me, it's okay, Lynn. Yes, this happened. We process through it. Soon it's going to be ready for the next one. So that's how I have gotten through what you guys are thinking. Like, this can't be, in your audience. This is, people don't do this, but unfortunately they really do, and worse.
Yeah, I had an experience. It wasn't anything to do with childhood. It was, I guess it could be best explained by a past life experience, but the impact of the detail that I had in this memory affected me for weeks. I mean, like, it was kind of disruptive to my life, and that was nowhere near as severe as some of the things that you recount. I can just imagine this being all consuming, and I'm so impressed with your ability to, live your normal life. I mean, to have the courage to come out and share your story with others that may have had these experiences. It's got to be very, very confusing and disorienting. And
and at the same time, a lot of people don't believe this. So here you are, like, why would, and I'm sure that there's some people that do. So I'm not speaking, I'm speaking to the majority that why would anyone want to make anything like this up? I mean, this is hard enough to just even deal with. Nevertheless, go out and speak publicly for some kind of attention. I mean, I just, that blows my mind.
People that don't understand how you can manipulate a fractured personality or a fractured mind like that, if you don't have a concept of that, then it's really hard to wrap your head around how this kind of thing could happen and how you could recover those memories years later in the way that you do.
Right. I did want to ask, so as far as I just reposted part of a documentary, and it was with Zara Marley, who's the daughter of Bob Marley, and Ali Carter, mainly their speaking parts. And it's specifically about the tunnels. Is there anything about the tunnels that you could share with because we have some people that watch our show that are, I guess, somewhat used to the subject matter, but we also, if people are new to the show, like to help them understand some of these topics, subject matter. What about the tunnels could you speak to help people learn more about that?
The tunnels that I was in were under the University Medical Center, and since they were for experimentation, they were in the adrenochrome harvesting, the organ harvesting. Picture what's above ground in a hospital and take it below ground. And it's not like a cave, it's not like a mine shaft. It's a very sophisticated infrastructure to do what they're doing, hallways, rooms. It's like you're above ground, but you're below ground. People also need to be aware that these tunnel systems, they truly run throughout the United States and worldwide. And I was on a podcast the other night, and on this woman's podcast, her husband from the military was telling her about the tunnels underground and how there are. It's like taking an elevator. And we know, like under the Pentagon, I mean, there's cities, towns, whatever you want to call it, sophisticated. They look exactly like above ground in terms of hallways and rooms, but there's layers of them. It's like having a high rise built upside down would be a good description. And what's interesting that just came to my mind, while the good guys, that your audience is we the people. So this is the good guys I'm talking to. While the good guys are wrapping their mind around it, the bad guys are fully immersed in the tunnels. You'll talk to survivors that, like underneath LA, our entertainers, our performers, they're very much aware of the tunnel system underground and the child trafficking and the adrenochrome, because that's the world that they live in. And this is worldwide. I encourage people to get any earthquake app, because you can follow the war in the tunnels. And anytime you see 6.2 miles, that appears to be the depth of most of the tunnels that will go like under the oceans and into other countries. And you can track it on your phones and see where some of the military is. But the tunnel system is extensive. The tunnel system is very sophisticated.
Wow. And you, as far as your experience in the tunnels, yours was somewhat limited, where you didn't travel to other cities or areas. Is that correct?
I do actually believe that I went to Paris once. So I do believe I traveled through. I mean, I do believe it's sometimes, I know this is difficult for people to hear. It's, but yes, so I was in Paris once for an event, a circus there, a child trafficking, satanic ritualistic abuse circus. But the tunnels are everywhere. And so I'm going to go back to a podcast I was on the other night. Her military husband, high ranking, he would talk about the transportation systems, the rail cars, the speed trains, it is very, very sophisticated. So if you have someone, I know the military is very compartmentalized, but start talking to your friends in the military who've been under in the tunnels and through the traveling infrastructure system. It's like cities above ground. They're completely below ground too. And we, the people, just weren't aware of that. But thank God now we are.
Right. Let's see. Was there some other? Go ahead if you have the questions.
Well, I'm just with that description, I'm picturing artificial lighting to approximate sunshine, so it feels, approximates life above.
Yes.
It's, I don't know, it's shocking. What percentage of people would you say in political power today have knowledge of these facilities and what's going on?
I would say 100% at the federal level. So many of them are involved in the child trafficking. Child trafficking is a $38 billion industrial scale business in the United States alone. And they are, I mean, it funds, it's the number one funder of all of the deep state activities because it's dark money that no one can trace. So they're all aware of the systems, the infrastructure, the money that's involved. Some of them are eager participants. Some, as we've been learning, have been blackmailed. But I would say all of them, or 98%, 95%, the vast majority would have full knowledge.
Right. And then as far as the because it is a little bit jarring to learn about the entertainers and that, these are the people that you thought, oh, they must have this great life. Are most of them involved, would you say, in this whole, taking the adrenochrome and doing this to children? Is that really, there's the club that they talk about. And I think I know the answer, but is there anything you want to speak to on that matter?
Again, I would say the vast majority of entertainers are involved. It is I'll call it a rite of passage, the pedophilia in order to become an entertainer and other rites of passage. The adrenochrome is their drug of choice. That's why it's so rampant. It reverse ages them. I'll tell you something I would encourage people to watch. By the time people reach their, let's say, 40s, you're going to start seeing, wrinkles by the eyes, and you're going to start seeing wrinkles. Watch your performers, your entertainers, because Botox cannot erase it 1,000% of the time. And watch how they don't have that. Watch how you've got performers in their 60s that don't have the signs of aging. It's physically impossible, and it's the adrenochrome that they're using. It's a huge industry. So yeah, they're very much involved. They're very much underground. Have you guys had Dr. Juliet Engel on yet?
No.
She's someone you might enjoy having. Her family brought over. She's another friend, and I can give you her information, after the show. But she's another. Her family is the one. They helped bring the Nazis over from World War II through Operation Paperclip. And then she was trafficked because her family was in the CIA. And she has personal memories under the tunnels under LA and with the entertainment industry that she can share about more than I can. Okay. So I'll tell you, the survivors, they didn't think that we would survive, any of us. And if we did survive, they didn't think we'd remember. And if we did remember, they didn't think we'd speak. And if we did speak, they didn't think anyone would believe us. Well, praise God, that is not the case. And there are more and more, there's not tons of survivors, because even if people survive, most of them commit suicide because they cannot handle the stuff I've been telling you that I've had to work through. They cannot handle it, or they're in long-term mental institutions. But the ones that survive and make it, and she's one of them, several others, you can hear survivors sharing stories, and it puts all the pieces of the puzzle together for all of the people who are listening. We have firsthand accounts of what happened.
Right. We've done entire interviews before that we could not air because the individual we interviewed had not processed it, and we had things going on, like they'd get in thought loops and strange things would happen. Thank God. I feel like we're very guided on this channel We've avoided a
Yes.
lot of stuff that thankfully, and we've fallen right in the middle of stuff that's just wonderful. And, it's because this is a calling, I believe. But,
Yes. Amen.
but when you see a person that, you see that trauma take over and you see them start to loop, and it's quite jarring. It's quite jarring. And then when you think of what they're connected to, it's quite dangerous on top of that. So,
right. Yeah, we reached out to Laura Worley for one of our interviews, and we sent it to her and we just said, what should we do with this? Because we didn't feel comfortable.
Yeah, and the guy really wanted us to air it.
And yeah, Laura said she's not ready, and and she tried to get her help, because it's not always about doing a show. It's maybe a connection, or maybe getting someone help. I mean, there's a lot that goes on, and this is why it's turned into a life for Scott and I, which some people don't really understand. That there's so much that goes on for the show that is not something that we air. I mean, we have people literally reaching out to us. Do you know someone that knows this? Because I really need help. And that's part of what we do, because why wouldn't we? It's because
right.
It's people like you and the children are the whole reason we even started this. Because I mean, to watch the normal newscasters as I have throughout my life, just off and on, just kind of always knowing something was wrong, and then to reach out to people in the local press and like, hey guys, can you report on the human trafficking component? Can I send you? And they don't even want to hear it. I'm like, what? I don't understand. So, I get that from what we've heard, there's maybe 6% of men, and which I find this interesting that they broke it down this way. 6% of men and 3% of women have the mindset to take all this in and then want to get active and do something and recognize that this is really real subject matter, where 90% of people are just tuned out and they don't even know what to do with it. They don't even want to hear it. And so luckily I met a friend in person that has the same empathy towards humans that I do, or TruthStream probably wouldn't even exist, especially not like, I wasn't ready to talk about this stuff on my own at this level.
And I'll tell you, if you want to ruin a good cocktail party, just bring this topic up.
Oh my God.
I mean, seriously, nobody wants to talk about this.
You have to scan the room, and what level and layer do you talk to people? I mean, you could have 3 different people at a party that are in 3 different places of awareness. And Scott and I are like, how do we talk to Paul or Steve or Janet? Like, so a lot of times we just don't even really go into much.
You quickly come to the conclusion that you don't want to live in a world where that's going on. And you want to do whatever you possibly can to change it.
Right.
It's just really hard to do.
But it's
like I said, the badges at LAPD have the pedophile symbol on it. This is baked into the infrastructure. And if people don't go back and understand how this may have occurred, with Aleister Crowley's influence, and by extension, Jack Parsons. And so, I mean, like the early 40s, and I think this was set up well before that, but it was a hotbed for this kind of world, to emerge.
Right.
It's shocking. So how did you find yourself so clearly well adjusted in the face of this? And what if anyone's listening that may have had similar memories coming up, similar events, what would you say to them as far as how to deal with this?
Thank you for that question, because I think that one of the reasons, a big one, why people can't handle this topic is they hear these stories and there's no hope or solutions. Like, what can I do to help? And people just don't understand. So I'm a businesswoman, and I like to talk about solutions. It's like, don't bring me a problem without solutions. What I did, so years before I started speaking, God started giving me a plan about how he wanted to help the trafficked children, how he wanted people, we are his hands and feet, to help the trafficked children once they're rescued from the tunnels or rescued period, and how to help adults who've had trauma from trafficking or abuse, or trauma of any trauma is trauma, PTSD from vets, or children who have committed suicide or car wrecks. I mean, trauma is trauma. So before I started speaking for about 2 or 3 years, he started giving me his plan, what he wanted to do. I just wrote it down. So then when Michael Jaco asked me to speak, I thought, oh my gosh, they're going to say, how do we reach you? And I'm like, I'm a human resource consultant. I shouldn't just say that page. So the day before I was on Jaco's show, I made a website, and it is. It's the letter Q and then the word grit, GRIT.org. And God named it. And it's after that. Remember that John Wayne movie, True Grit, where that little girl comes out with okay. So that just like resonates big time, right? And so on that website, you'll see solutions. And I shared what I did to heal, and how to recognize trafficked or abused children, what to do and what not to do, and just what we the people can do, all the different things that we the people can do, because I believe that this is our time. I believe it's go time for we the people, and there are things that we can start doing to prepare for what's to come, because as we're seeing Trump take down systems, we need to be in place to bring up systems. And as I speak, I know that people who are listening to me, God has tapped them on the shoulder and told them something to do. Start an herb garden, write a children's book. I mean, something. And so thank you for putting that up. And so what I did personally, just my top tips to help people. The very first thing, bottom line, is God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, and whatever you want to call God. He loves all of his names, higher power, source, doesn't matter. Go to wherever the spiritual you goes. And God knows, I mean, God was there all the time. He was there in your trauma. He was right beside you. I see that. Most people have a veil and they don't. I see this. He's always there, and he's right there just waiting for you to reach out to him. So go to him. He'll get you started. Second big thing that I did was forgiveness, and that was a process. That was a long process. The third thing that helped me bigly, as President Trump would say, is the EMDR. So the EMDRIA.org. Find a therapist that resonates with you. And if you go to one and don't like it, go to another one. Keep going until you find someone that can help you. And then a huge product for me was LifeWave. So I'm an independent LifeWave distributor at liveyoungerwithlynne.com. And I bought that under Michael Jaco. And it decreased my PTSD and anxiety symptoms 70%. 70%.
Oh, good. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we do. We probably should trust.
I hear so many success stories.
Yeah. Well, you have to get them from me, okay?
Fair enough. I mean, if anyone deserves, and yeah, boy, is that a good point. Well, we want to get them from the woman who's really been through the ringer. I think that's a fair. Yeah, we'll talk to you about that after the show.
Okay.
Well, it brings to mind that, I don't know, we've been so preoccupied with trying to identify the enemy for the longest time. And, usually it's right against left or, whatever. And I think this is a time for us to really recognize that some people might be carrying incredible burdens, and and they go unspoken. And, a little grace goes a long way. Right. And I've been saying it for a long time now, but I think it's especially important. You look for the God in other people. Look in their eyes and you'll see it. And I mean, it really softens your heart to a lot of things, but it also lets you know when you're not in the presence of such a thing.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I was paddleboarding yesterday, and there was 3 kids with their mom on the beach, and just the sound of their laughter, it was just so sweet, and just it just kind of these flood of memories of childhood came back. And the fact that there's so many people out there that are the opposite of that are okay with the other sounds that children can make. And that, I mean, I want to do anything I can to make sure kids are laughing and enjoying themselves. And You just don't watch our shows on Tuesday with Ethan Lucas.
No,
God, he takes our show
different show.
somewhere that is not this subject matter at all. But other than that show, no, but in seriousness, like, we want to do whatever we can to bring joy to children and to extend the childhood. I had an amazing childhood, and I just every kid should have that. So when I started hearing that wasn't the norm, I just felt compelled, because my father was very, very much of an empath, and my mom too. But my dad and I had just a bond. I worked for him at the pharmacy, and I just saw his love for people, and I just thought that's how the world was. And when I started getting outside of that bubble and seeing that it wasn't that way, first of all, I felt really blessed and honored that I had a father like that. But it just made me want to do whatever I could to help create a world in any way that I can, whatever reach our show has, whatever, and thank you for the compliment. We don't know the ripple effect that we have, not just on the show, but that someone picking up some children's book up that may have fallen and tripped, like they may have made an impact on that child that day, where the kid feels included, or that someone cares about them. That's the world we need to live in, like more of children laughing. And so that we live in a world where so many of these scientists are fine going along with protocol and the norm for money is so fucking disgusting to me. It blows my mind that we still live in a world like this.
Well, this brings me to a question about you. So you said you were one of the kids that had a home to go to.
Yeah.
So in the middle of all of this, trauma and experimentation and whatnot that you were experiencing, you were going home to a family?
Yes. So there was generational pedophilia on my mother's side, and that causes severe, awful trauma. And she hated me from the day I was born, and she hated me till the day she died. And I'll never know why, but she's the one that sent me to the trafficking house, and knowingly to the university. She called it camp, and didn't care. So I have long since forgiven her, and praise God, she's in heaven now. I led her to the Lord Jesus Christ, and she's in heaven, and I'm very happy about that. That's the power of forgiveness, when you're ready. But my dad was an alcoholic and a workaholic, so he was never there, and he had no idea. And the beautiful thing there, when my parents divorced, and we moved, I didn't see him for years and years and years and years, and because he was still very active in his alcoholism and drug addiction. And then one day he reached out, and he'd been clean and sober for 5 years and AA for a long time. And we started a relationship, and I found out that I was loved, and I had no idea, that I was loved. And we had a beautiful relationship until the day he died in 2015. And since then, I've seen him a couple times in heaven. And I'm just really pleased with all of that. So, one day I'll see them both again. But that was my family when I was little. And my parents were responsible for me, and they failed.
Wow. And how has the friendship with Kathy O'Brien, and how long have you been friends with Kathy?
So I first met her, I don't know, in May. So I first started speaking in April, and then I went to a Scott McKay event in Ohio, and Patriot Street Fighter. And
Right.
she was there, and the Jacobs were there, and so I was hanging out with them all, and I got to meet her, and like she was like one of my heroes. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if I didn't know we'd talk about her, I'd have brought her books, because when I was still healing and I first heard her, I'd be like, oh my gosh, she sounds like me. I mean, I had no idea there was a kindred spirit alive somewhere, and so I bought her books, and she autographed them, and then she put peace and freedom, and praise God, I have peace and freedom now. I did not then. And they were just so meaningful to me. So when I saw her, Tracy Jo Jaco, Michael's wife, I was hanging out with her. She introduced me. And when Kathy spoke, I was there with a lot of people from LifeWave now. They've become like my second family. It's just a lot of them are fighting against child trafficking. And so I was listening to Kathy speak, And there was a woman there from LifeWave who has like 600,000 people under her. She held my hand the whole time Kathy spoke, because it was just like, it was just so, I mean, it was just emotion. I mean, I was so happy, it wasn't sad or anything. I was just like, oh my goodness, there is Kathy O'Brien. So I met her, and then that was the beginning. And then we've been on shows together, and she reached out to me at the beginning of this year, and she said, I would love to do as many shows this year together as we can, because we have a ball doing them. It's just some kind of synergy that happens. And then she's hoping that we can be like at a live event soon again, and I am too. But yeah, she is a beautiful, beautiful soul, and just one of my heroes.
Hers too.
She is. I got to meet her in person. It's just, she's amazing.
Yeah, she is. She's truly amazing. We remind each other from time to time when we're having a really difficult day that it could be a whole lot more difficult. And we reference Kathy, and it's a great way to summon some more strength out of yourself. It trivializes a lot of things that we tend to amplify and make a bigger deal out of than maybe we ought to.
Right. And we would love, not that we're ending the show, but we would love it. It kind of entered my mind, like, well, maybe we should have them both on, but sometimes, we want to share your story first, because sometimes it's hard to schedule everybody at the same time. So
yeah, and I think we've been going for an hour, and I think we've barely scratched the surface in many ways.
Yeah. Well, what else do you care to ask her?
I don't know. It's just kind of flowed. I didn't want to interrupt the flow of it all. I imagine there's an awful lot of details that people are wondering about.
And if folks do have some questions in the chat, feel free to.
It's a difficult thing to conceive of, that there's this entire hidden reality. I mean, I think it's become a lot less difficult to conceive of this now.
With the more people that are talking.
Well, when you see the deception in real time on a daily basis for, at least 4 years, but that wakes you up to the previous 4 years and the 4 years before that.
Right.
I think a lot of people are waking up. Very few people are accepting the narrative anymore. Thank God. But it's very difficult for people to, most people think, well, we would know about that if it was true. You hear that about all kinds of things, these underground cities and whatnot. It's like, really, would you? Of course you wouldn't.
Right.
You wouldn't at all. And, it's sort of like, well, how would they even pay for such a thing? Well,
that's where your tax dollars go.
Well, between the trafficking revenue, the tax dollars.
Right.
I mean, hopefully what Doge has been doing is waking people up to a lot of that.
Right. Unless they're liberal and they're burning Teslas, but
that's part of MK Ultra too. I mean, those people. I mean, truly, MK Ultra. All of the people who are against Doge, who would be against eliminating taxes? I mean, that in itself is an insane thought. But they're very much MK Ultra, and it's what was being discussed before. They're in the media. They went from the 3-letter agencies into the media, and they brought what was the experiments were underground, and that's where they learned how to do it. They brought it above ground, and they're MK ultraing people, and it's very, very effective. They're like robots, and the basis of that is trauma, where they scare someone so bad that they become their rational thought leaves, and their subconscious is wide open, and they can plant ideas in there, and then they take off doing that, which is why Tesla owners were so, let's go green, buy electric, and now they're, let's destroy our cars. I mean, it's irrational, but people are very irrational under MK Ultra.
Right.
Well, Dr. Jack Cruz, who's a remarkable fellow, hell of a guy, and we'd love to have him on the show, Jack, if you're watching. But wouldn't that be something? But he I think he said it was about 80% of people are MK Ultra. He said they did it through blue light spectrum. And that's
computer screens. Yeah,
I'll tell you, computer, phone, TVs, everything. I mean, we're glued to these things. And he said it very much. That's why he's always wearing the blocking glasses, which I bought a pair. I just don't wear them very often. But I try and wear them at the last couple hours of my day. But he has a very qualified opinion for a number of reasons that I won't get into. I mean, that's a rabbit hole, but check it out because we've all been affected to one degree or another. I think some of us far more severely. And, maybe that'll help you find compassion for some of these idiots that are doing really stupid things. Underneath that, there's a human being
that's been very MK Ultra.
That has been manipulated to exhibit the behavior they're exhibiting. I'm not saying everybody gets a free pass or anything like that. I'm just saying, a little compassion and forgiveness goes a long way, like you were saying earlier.
Right.
What do they say about forgiveness? It's like if you refuse to forgive someone, it's like taking poison, hoping it'll kill the other person.
Yeah. Yep. That's a really good.
Yeah. Forgiveness is for us. I remember when. So I was. I've been a Christian woman for a long time, and I know the importance of forgiveness. I always knew it. So I started having these memories, and I knew forgiveness is for me. It's for no one else but me. And what it does is it cuts that energetic tie, just like a guillotine. And it's for me to so they no longer have space in my head to rent. It was very hard. And so as a businesswoman, I go to God, and it was like a business transaction. I forgive them. I forgive them. I forgive. I didn't mean it. It wasn't in my mind. It wasn't in my heart. But I said it. And then I didn't mean it, but I said
it. To hell with you, but hey, I forgive you, whatever. Rotten hell.
It's just like step one, Scott. I'm trying to encourage people here. So
sorry. I love the honesty. It was great. Even if you don't mean it, it takes effect. Right?
To start, because maybe you'll mean it later.
Right. Exactly. So the day came where God told me to go to a certain ministry, hear a certain sermon. And so I did. And it was about a serial killer, and he was executed, and he found the Lord Jesus Christ beforehand. And he died with a beautiful smile on his face because he went straight to heaven. And so I thought, if they're executed, I'm okay with it. I can forgive them. And there on the spot, it washed over me, and I completely forgave every pedophile, every government employee, every medical employee. And it was like sunshine. I felt like I had windows in my brain and sunshine and fresh air, and there was a broom just sweeping stuff out. I could smell grass growing and fields and dirt, and I was free. And I felt my mind, and I was free, and I've never looked back. And then the day came too, whenever I was able to forgive my mom. And it was just so freeing to be able to let that go, because that was the biggest of all. And so forgiveness is a huge thing. But I encourage people. I know, it. Parents, it's hard for them to forgive, and it's done in stages. And you just do the best you can. And God honors every little bit and every little effort. He understands more than we do. And he'll honor whatever little bit you can do, even if you don't mean it. He honored mine. And that was years of my business transactions until the day he said, go here. And he said, you'll be healed if you go. And I'm all on board. If he says that, I go. And that's what happened to me at both of the events that I went to. So I encourage people, the day will come. And if you can't now, that's okay. Do it like a business transaction. You don't have to mean it. Just tell God, and he'll honor that.
Got it. There is thank you for sharing that. There's a question that came up, and I'll just read. Forgive me for missing the first hour. Clojo is one of our regular viewers, and so we wanted to bring this up. Wondering if Lynnne is in contact with others who went through SRA at the same place and time as her, or do they keep the kids away from each other? How about that?
That's an excellent question. Because I was so little whenever it happened, and then because I was removed physically from the geographic area, I'm confident the government watched me for a while, and I'm confident that some of that, happened. But I've never met the children. I'll never meet them. I don't know who they are. I will tell you what I do know about the children, because I love this story. I spent years sorting through with God, why, many whys. But one of the whys is, why did I make it like this? And why did I see so many children not make it? And I didn't understand. And he told me, he said it was his mercy because it was too hard on them. And that's true, because I would see that if they weren't brought in from like birth to 1 year old, the trauma of what was going, their little minds and bodies couldn't take it. And some of them just died on their own. They weren't executed or killed on purpose or accidentally. They couldn't make it. And so when I was talking to him about it, he said that the little ones that had families that just didn't know where they were, that they were up in heaven, still the same age, waiting for their family to get there and could raise them. And then he said the ones that didn't have families, they were all waiting in my mansion for me. And when the last brick was put on the mansion, I'd be up there with them. And I just thought that was so beautiful. I mean, just so, in the middle of such horror, I just think that's so beautiful. It was God's mercy, because they couldn't take it.
Wow, thank you for sharing that.
I've never really mentioned this before, but I feel like if I'm ever going to mention it, this is an appropriate time. So when I was a small child, I was taken to a daycare by the Air Force Academy. It was on a military base, and I remember this smell. The place smelled a certain way. And every time I encounter that smell, it's kind of a rare smell, but every time I encounter it, it's kind of emotionally arresting and very, and overwhelming. And I brought it up to my mom. We were talking about it not too long ago, and she said, "You begged me not to take you there." And I didn't. I felt so bad because it was my only alternative, but you begged me not to take you there. I didn't know what it was about that place you didn't like so much.
How old do you think you were?
5, maybe.
Wow.
Guessing. But
I'm sorry.
Well, I'm bringing it up because I'm wondering if that's more meaningful to you than it's apparently to me.
Yes, it's very meaningful, and I'd like to give a couple of tips to parents with little ones with that story and about trauma. Whenever there's sense are the number one things that are remembered from a trauma above and beyond anything. And so likely there was some trauma there, and it doesn't have to be, like a trauma that I went through, but there was some trauma there. And so I encourage, so if you're still doing your EMDR, I would recommend sorting through that, because it will eliminate that emotional reaction. You'll never have that again, but to whatever happened. But for the parents, when your little ones, this is one of my tips you'll see on my website. When your little ones say they don't want to be somewhere, magnify that 1,000,000 times and do whatever you can not to take them, because something not good is going on. And it may be as bad as what happened to me, and it may not be, but it's something that, clearly, it impacts us as adults. You can fast forward in life and it's still going to impact. So I encourage parents, if your child says, I don't want to be with that person, I don't want to go there, magnify it 1,000,000 times and do your very, 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 very best not to take them, because something's happening there.
Wow.
Yeah, and I have no idea.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I know we're trying to keep this around an hour and a half today. Is there anything that either you feel we haven't covered or that you want to talk about or on any level? That would probably be good, because we want to make sure we're as thorough as possible within the time period allotted.
So there's one thing that's on my mind. It's always on my mind. And again, I encourage people to go to the qgrit.org for more information. But if I can take a couple minutes to talk about what to do if you're watching this show and you think, oh no, a little one I love, something is happening that is not good. They're being harmed in some way. What I don't want you to do, recommendations, pray about it first, do that. But what I don't recommend you do is don't take them to a medical center for an examination, because their examinations are physical and mental torture to a child. So don't repeat it. The only reason they do that is so you, the adult, has 100% certainty something happened, but in your spirit, intuitively something happened. Don't enter the system, because then they'll contact law enforcement. Law enforcement will contact the child pedophile services. You could lose your child in a heartbeat. Many states, they can put your child in 72-hour lockdown in a psych mental ward. Do not enter the system. That's my recommendation. We, the people, can do this. We, the people, have the tools to do this. We don't need the current systems because they're corrupt. Again, good people are in there. Systems are corrupt. And so pray about it. Go to my qgrit.org website and get a list of things to do, because I'll talk about getting books for the children, getting them something to, and I'm talking the little ones because that's my lane. Get them something to draw, to write out their trauma. You'll see what they've been through. I just have lots of tips. Get them on the LifeWave patches. They're going to be, their central nervous system and anxiety is so strong that it'll calm them right down, just like it did me. Get them into EMDR. That's long term. The short term, do not take them and do big pharma drugs. I would not enter the systems. We can do this, and we can help each other. We can help each other, and we can help the kids. We don't need the systems, and we can start to rebuild. So I just want to encourage people, because I have so many people after shows say, oh my gosh, you know, it's my little one. I mean, I know someone, and I want to give people hope and encouragement that we can do this and you can take care of this. And there are a lot of us out there that will support you. And there's a contact page on that website too for me, just like people reach out to you guys, they can reach out to me. So.
Excellent. Wonderful. Well, that's good to hear. Yeah, it's, you know, we've done this once before, but maybe it'd be good to do it once again. Would you consider doing, you've been on X. Would you consider doing a Spaces? Are you familiar with Spaces?
I'm not.
It's more interactive. It's
Yeah.
audio only.
It's audio, right? It's audio only, but we could have like a panel, you and Kathy, you talk, it's audio only, and then guests could, you know, not guests per se, but other people that are on X could ask questions and interact, and maybe get support and ask you questions. If that's something you'd be interested
I'd love it. So I've been on Dr. Carrie Madej's Tribe Talk quite a lot, and they ask questions, and I've been on other shows where I love that. I love interacting with people and answering questions, because my heart, you know, I helped a lot of children survive, and that's my heart. I want to help people, and it makes me feel really good. So I would love that.
Well, then I think we're going to have to set that up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Terrific.
Yeah. Awesome. Wow.
Because I know I still have a bunch of questions, but
right.
You know, we'll save them, I think, for the next
time.
time.
Well, yeah, we're going to have you back with, I mean, well, obviously we'll do another show, and if we could get you now, have you had a chance to interact with Laura Worley yet?
I have not. I have not met her. I've heard of her, but I haven't met her yet.
She's wonderful. She just lost her husband to cancer, but she had some unfortunate events occur with her and Hillary Clinton. So yeah, it's a heck of a situation that she was put in as well. But yeah, I think we'll set something up, because there's nothing like helping connect people, especially you know, on this subject matter. I mean, it probably doesn't hurt to have other friends that have been through this to really help each other. So
it is. It's a beautiful thing. Like with any other trauma, it's a beautiful thing to connect with like-minded souls. I had someone give me the phone number of a Holocaust survivor, and I was able to speak to him, one of the last remaining this week. And he said, Lynn, did you know I was experimented on too? And I said, no. And I told him how I was, and to meet kindred spirits and kindred souls that you don't have to say a lot of words and they understand. It's beautiful.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. Think of it as like there's the group of us that's aware of these atrocities going in the world, and then there's within that group, such as yourself, people who've actually been in them, and that's a much smaller group. So anything we can do to help, you know,
that's beautiful.
Bring you guys together, by all means. We love doing it. So
good.
It's an honor.
Love it. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll be in touch. Hang out after, because we'll talk to you about some other stuff.
Yes.
And we'll say bye to the audience. And but yeah, once again, guys, if you go to here is Lynn's website. Is there any other social media that you wanted to share right now besides this? And I know there's your X page as well.
Yes, there's my X page, which is Haggerman 91741. I just started the social media as the X because I was on
Right.
Nino's show and all of a sudden I had followers. So I thought, wow, I guess I better say something. And Truth Social, I'm at Victory Always.
Okay.
And then my LifeWave website is liveyoungerwithlynne.com. I have a Rumble channel, the Lynnne Scott
Oh, that's
Haggerman
right.
Show. Yeah, yeah. And then if
There's
anyone's
your
interested,
X.
yeah, my day job, I'm at lynnehaggerman.com is the International Human Resource Consultant. So, yeah.
Okay, good. I think that sums up most. I'm just looking last for anything else here. So, all right, everybody. Well, Scott and I will be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. I think it'll just be the two of us. We might have some guests. And then thankfully, due to some friends of ours in Costa Rica and friends of ours up in this area through buddy passes, we're going to Costa Rica next week. I think, well, we're figuring out the exact time. And we'll be doing some shows down there, but we're going to try and enjoy ourselves as well and just immerse ourselves in the sun and the beach and maybe some books. Try to not be on social media so much because we've been working doing this for by then almost 3 years, so we could use a little bit of a break.
Yeah, and just for housekeeping, as you guys have heard us say so many times, the chat goes away on Rumble at the end of a show. So if you have any comments that you'd like to leave, remember to leave them in the comments section. Check out our locals. It's free to join. There is an opportunity to support us in there, though, if you feel like doing so. We definitely appreciate it. And any other updates?
Oh yeah, if you're interested in joining Scott and I in Ireland, it's already about half full. We have about 10 people going, and that's going to be at the end of September.
I thought that was full. Was 10?
No, it's 15 to 20.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, we got more spots.
Yeah, there's more spots, but they're filling up quick. So we did a wonderful interview with
Mark Atwood.
Mark Atwood. Oh, I wish I had the darn. It's a wonderful picture that Scott put together of Mark Atwood as Bob Ross.
Why don't you have it?
Yeah, I might have taken it down, so I didn't. Yeah. So anyway, it's our featured interview because it's on healing and the trip to Ireland. It's going to be incredible. So that's going to be like September 20th through the 25th. They're extending it an extra night.
It's like seriously cutting edge healing center. I don't think there's anything else quite like it. We're really excited to check it out.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I think that's all we got. So anyway, all right. Well, thank you, everybody. We're going to roll the outro. Lynn, hang tight, and we'll see everybody tomorrow. Bye.
I've known for some time something about the world ain't right. The darkness lives in plain sight. In the ether, adjust your eyes. There are those that have no clue. You give them hints, they just stare at you.